Battle that must be fought.
Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News Team.
And go hit the ground hard and relentlessly.
And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
This is a Washington Post headline from 9 years ago, 2016. Meet the man the White House has honored for deporting illegal immigrants. And I would remind everyone in this room that it was former President Barack Hussein Obama who awarded a medal to Mr. Homan. So he's obviously very qualified. He has the full trust and faith of the president. He will continue to have these meetings in the hopes that ICE and local law enforcement can cooperate and work together to have successful immigration enforcement, as we've seen in almost every other state across the country.
Caroline Levitt announcing that Mr. Homan going to Minneapolis, Scott Bavino being reassigned down to the southwestern corridor, and new posture apparently by DHS, ICE, and Border Patrol in Minneapolis. So Trump had a call, Stephanie Bell, with Mr. Walz. Mr. Walz said, well, we had a conversation. Trump said, as he always does, it went great. I have a new friend. We're going to get together. Sounds like new posture in Minneapolis.
Trump says it was a very good call, and I think this is a very good call for Minnesota. I think what we can all agree is they really need an adult in the room. That adult is not Tim Walz. They've struggled with, I think, leadership from the top. It's a complete disaster. And Trump says Homan is tough but fair. I've seen him speak in person. He would definitely need the dump button. But I think he's seen as a reasonable authority figure. And we talked yesterday about lowering the temperature, and I think potentially he has the opportunity to do that.
And John and Stephanie, I think it's fair to say that Kristi Noem is probably taking a little bit of a backseat here because I think in view of when you watch that video, I think two things can be true. I think now with all of the analysis, fair, objective analysis, I don't think we have any reason to say that guy pulled a gun on anyone. I don't think he was there to assault and massacre officers. Here's what Kristi Noem said, which I think really probably was an overstatement. It's not the first time she's done it.
This individual showed up to impede a law enforcement operation and assaulted our officers. They responded according to their training and took action to defend the officer's life and those of the public around him. And I don't know of any peaceful protester that shows up with a gun and ammunition rather than a sign. This is a violent riot when you have someone showing up with weapons and are using them to assault law enforcement officers.
I think it's a fair argument that there's no evidence that he was there to assault and law enforcement. And other officials said that he was going to carry out mass casualty. You know, I think DHS leadership has overspoken, and that can be true. But so can it be true that he shouldn't have effed around and found out, right? I mean, I think both can be true.
I think it would be, I'm just thinking, like, if I was advising Kristi Noem,
yes.
It's such a hard position to be in because
right.
As the head, as soon as something happens, they want you to make a statement. You want to be on message. You want to, try to lower the temperature, say what happened. You have such limited information. And again, if she would have come out and said, well, we're doing an investigation and we'll give you more details when we find them out, then all you're going to get is whatever the message is on Twitter. And so I do think what she said has proven to be factually inaccurate. I think she got a little bit out ahead of her skis, and I think and that's a mistake she made. But I do think, like, it's a tough spot. I mean, that's a tough spot to be in, to be expected to say something, to be criticized if you basically
right.
say nothing, but to not have the full facts. And so,
I think they can double down on, hey, look, what we talked about yesterday, no one talk to a reporter and say, reporter, have you ever made a mistake? You may have gotten 99.9%. Have you ever made a report that you had to later on, they had to print a retraction and say, you know what? ICE officers, it may turn out the investigation turns out that they acted quick. But in the line of duty, in fighting this battle where they are under constant assault, we are reminding people not to put themselves in a position of grave danger and bring a weapon without announcing it to the police that you're there. That's rule number one. There were a lot of things that were factually undeniable. He had a gun. He didn't tell police he had a gun. Everyone with a concealed carry knows you're supposed to let people know that you have a gun when you encounter law enforcement. I think she could have done that without saying a domestic terrorist. That's look, in this supercharged environment,
emotions are running really high, and I think she kind of got wrapped up in it now. Yeah, and she can ask not only have you ever made a mistake, but have you ever been called to the principal's office? Because apparently her and Trump met for like 2 hours on Monday night. Yeah, and I mean, Democrats are mad. They're calling for her resignation or her impeachment. She is actually scheduled to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee on March 3rd. But this is complicating. I mean, beyond her little mistake, now we have a complication with the government funding bills that we thought we were smooth sailing last week. And because of the events over the weekend, it looks like we might be headed toward a partial government shutdown.
Well, I think the big angle, Bonvino is going to pull out and they're going to put in the big boy, have him oversee it. Maybe they need to back off on some of their ICE missions for the time being. And, a lot of the politicos out there are crying foul and saying this could negatively affect the midterms. And I think that may be a valid statement because you're kind of energizing the other side to come out to the polls.
I don't know. It's a tough one to call because if they back down, pull out, basically stand down, then I think it sets a precedent. And watch out. I mean, it opens the Pandora's box for these all over the place. Now, I'm seeing online something that really troubles me. It's really troubling, very, very troubling to me. We have a guy who we have interesting conversations online, and this is a microcosm of what you see in the national atmosphere. And this is why neither side will ever admit that they're wrong, and why things are said that shouldn't be said, and why people can't have discussions. Because of this discussion, and because of what we're talking about the administration, Trump is basically saying, he said it last week, mistakes can be made. Mistakes have been made. And immediately we see people, I'm not going to mention his name on the text because normally he says things that are fairly rational, but this is an example of what's wrong with our country. He writes, so this administration lied and tried to change the narrative of what happened in Minnesota, and you say, well, they misspoke. I didn't say they misspoke. I actually said they got it wrong. The problem is in this environment, media, people on the left, people on the right have zero grace because I have to win. There you go. There you go. That's the problem.
Well, and
that's why we have a cultural problem in this country.
Well, and I think you also pointed out that the administration made two mistakes. A, they got it wrong, and B, they haven't really been held. They haven't held themselves accountable by coming out and saying, "I got it wrong." And here, if you're going into a protest or whatever you're doing, here are some ways that we can keep our people safe and you can be safe. And going forward, we'll try to do a better job of getting the facts right, or letting we don't have the facts, and take a deep breath.
The American people, I think even liberals accept the most radical. I hate anyone who ever said Donald Trump did anything right. If you said that, you are a worthless, miserable human being. I don't ever want to deal with you because everything you say is wrong, except for those people. Most people will give you grace if you say, oh, man, that was a mistake. But, the general mission is right. Don't you want to see your community rid of pedophiles, of domestic abusers and rapists, of murderers that came here illegally? Yes, once in a while, we discover someone in the hunt that, is here legally, and the laws say they need to be deported, even if they're not violent. And we're just, changing the law. The problem is we can no longer talk with one another. We're talking past one another. We're looking for opportunities to say gotcha. And sadly, we have a listener who texted, and that's exactly so they're changing. I don't want to hear about that anymore. I want to hear about, we, a conservative morning talk show, say, both things can be wrong, can be true. Kristi Noem overspoke. Others have overspoke. Would anyone like to say that maybe Tim Walz and Fry have overspoke? I never hear anyone say that. Never that's really good practice, say, get the F out of here. When you were trying to remove your people from the criminals from our area. I'm sick and tired of people having it this way. And the minute you give them an inch, they want to take a mile and crucify you. That's why they haven't shown integrity and gained credibility Stephanie, because people don't have grace. They won't say, okay, thanks for admitting that. Now, how do we get to a better place?
There's so many lies on both sides, and we're pointing out that the administration has been lying, but I see so many people on social media say, oh, he never had a gun, or no, he's like an innocent person. He was a nurse. Oh, he must be the best person in the world. So, there's just so much lying, and it's just going further and further from the truth. But I did want to say, John, you said earlier that maybe we should dial this back for the midterms so we can win. I say go the opposite route because, Trump's name's not on the ballot. Republicans are going to have that bumped down. Let's just go all out for this last year. Let's just hammer.
There's an impulsive side of me that says either that or do the exact same. Say, you know what? Donald Trump should say, you know what? Maybe in an absurd kind of a way, say, you know what? I am now commanding all ICE. If Walsh's National Guard is giving out donuts and hot chocolate to the protesters, I am now commanding ICE and Border Patrol to give out glazed, cream-filled, chocolate-filled donuts with cream centers to everyone with hot chocolate and little Baileys, too, because we're going to do it better. And let's see how that works out for you. Let's see how that works out for you, Minneapolis and Los Angeles and, Chicago. Let's see how that works out for you. And every time there's a criminal that is not caught that's an illegal alien, we're just going to say, hey, happy donut and hot chocolate time, folks. Maybe that's the thing. Just back off totally and let the carnage begin. I don't know. Anyone in this country that tells me they don't want illegal aliens swept up in some kind of a sweep, and many people are saying, by the way, the same people that are criticizing Trump and ICE and Border Patrol weren't complaining at all when it was happening during the Obama administration. So it's a symptom of TDS. TDS, like a lot of diseases, will flare and will be put down. So the antibiotic for TDS apparently is anyone that wears a donkey on their T-shirt. As long as Obama deports millions, it's okay. If Trump deports them, not so much. Welcome into Good Morning. Wake up, Missouri. Guys.
Poopy Pants Randy.
Good morning.
There you go.
No, I'm tired of people when the administration finally says something like, yeah, we're going to do a different. There you go. I told you.
I'm just concerned about your heart health, Randy.
It's a beautiful
Your
thing.
blood pressure seems a bit high this morning.
And both sides do get it wrong. And why each side can't really elevate their credibility by saying, I got it wrong, never ceases to amaze me. Daily DC Rundown when we come back.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
year. And for about 45 days, they kept things shut down. And if the Democrats vote to shut it down, now our entire military won't be paid again. I can't ever support that. I absolutely hope we can engage. In a debate and make some of the kinds of common sense reforms on ICE and make it more safe, more humane, and more effective, and just focus exclusively on the criminals. I hope that's possible. But for me, I remain to be the one Democrat, at least, that refuses to shut our government down.
There's John Fetterman. Here's Stephanie with the Daily DC Rundown.
And as every other politician's approval rating is in the toilet, apparently John Fetterman's never enjoyed better approval ratings because he's making sense here, Randy. We've got a deadline coming Friday night on the government shutdown, and Democrats' plan is to pass 5 bills and nix the 6th bill. The problem is that Thune needs unanimous consent to split the bills, or they go back to the House. The House is out this week. Also, DC's been pummeled with snow. So
and if they defund DHS, that's not going to affect ICE. ICE is funded through the one beautiful bill through what, 28 or 29?
Well, I think some ICE funding is in this bill, but we're also talking other entities, including FEMA, TSA, the Coast Guard, all of those not funded. So it's not looking good. But Fetterman is trying to help, but it's not enough. It's not going to be enough.
Maybe all politicians need to have a stroke and get admitted for depression for a while. I don't know.
He seems to be doing much better.
Yeah, straightens up their thinking.
Trump is also on the campaign trail. He's headed to, not really, but for the midterms. He's headed to outside of Des Moines today to Iowa to talk energy and economy. He's recently visited Pennsylvania and North Carolina. Certainly there are some folks, like John mentioned earlier, concerned about how some of the current happenings might affect Republicans in the midterms. Democrats see Iowa as a potential opportunity for them in some races, and so Trump is going there to try to shore up support. Of course, Iowa supported Trump in his elections, and he's very popular. We also heard yesterday that Israel received the last hostage, remains from a 24-year-old individual killed fighting Hamas on October 7th. That is part of one of Trump's many deals. In exchange, Israel released thousands of Palestinian prisoners, and as part of the deal, Israel's now reopening the border crossing with Egypt for pedestrian traffic. At Davos last week, Trump said Hamas has 3 weeks to disarm or they'll be blown away. So the conflict's not over, but we're taking steps in the right direction.
Yeah, well, it's good to see.
We are also we've talked a little bit already this morning about how Tom Homan is headed to Minnesota. We are lowering the temperature this morning, and I think the Trump administration is trying to lower the temperature there and kind of taking a different tact. So he is headed there, and whether or not the ICE funding blows up or turns into a government shutdown, I guess we will see. We're also hearing Trump threaten to raise tariffs on South Korea. Says that he's been saying that their legislature is dragging their feet on a trade deal that they reached in October. Also, big news in the travel world, Southwest Airlines has officially ended its open seating after 50 years. You now have to do an assigned seat for Southwest Airlines.
Really?
Yeah, they made that big announcement last year. People who were like OG Southwest people were big mad.
Yeah.
But people like me who don't want to stand in a cattle call and not know where you're going to sit, I'm still not flying Southwest.
So you're not flying Southwest because they don't go out of Columbia, do they?
Right.
All right, it's Wake Up Missouri, 573-874-9390. Social addiction with teens?
I think just local news is
Hey, I'm just calling to say, assuming you're married to and with a last name like that, I don't know how you let your husband work for ICE and you sleep at night. You, your family. I hope your kids get deported by accident. How do you sleep? You. Did you hear what happened to the Nazis after World War II? Because that's what's going to happen to your family.
So, for those of you on the left who are saying that Kristi Noem, shame on her for saying that Mr. Presti was there to assault officers and commit mass damage, and what an overstatement that was, that he was a terrorist, that others are terrorists when they're out in the streets. Look in the mirror. Ask the people who are on, quote, your side of the fence to look in the mirror. I think that 95% of Americans, whether they're on the left or the right, if they honestly look in the mirror, they would say, you know, some of the people on my side of the fence are absolute Looney Tunes. And when I see it, even if they're not Looney Tunes, but they say something and behave in a way that is inappropriate, I'm going to call them out, which is why I routinely take a lot of heat on this program. I know many of you do out there, too, when you just make the simple comment, wow, I wish Donald Trump would just stop the cussing from the state. Or, man, why does he say that this is the greatest economy we've ever had? Why does he overspeak? And when you say that, sometimes people on your own side of the fence will say, oh, what's the matter with you? Donald Trump's... No, we just try to be a truth teller and try to have grace for others who generally get it right but get it wrong once in a while and say, you know what? Generally, the guy does a pretty good job, but you know what? It'd be even better if he did it this way. And boy, that was really a big mistake. But, you know, that doesn't mean that he's a bad person or an evil person or that everything he does. What's happened to truth-telling in the American public? I mean, and this kind of vitriol. Have you heard Tim Walz or Mayor Fry call out that kind of stuff? Or, oh, this one.
You're a fucking fascist pig. You should fucking kill yourself. I hope your wife dies. I hope your mom and dad die. I hope everything wrong that could go in your life happens. I hope you have the most miserable life. I hope you get hit by a bus. I hope you're paralyzed and your wife leaves you and starts getting f***ed by BBCs every day. You are a traitor to the American people, to the values that made our very country. You should kill yourself. You're f***ing disgusting. I hate you. Everyone hates you. You're a f***ing murderer. And all of your friends are f***ing murderers, and your bosses are a bunch of pedophiles. Kill yourself.
ICE officers are facing, and their families are facing, more than an 8,000 increase in death threats against them. Now, it's easy to imagine how a guy like Presti or this Nichols, Renee Good, may have said things like this in their chat rooms, in their signal rooms. And it's not a hard stretch then to imagine, not a far stretch to imagine, you know, I could see them just getting out of control in the moment if they saw a Border Patrol or an ICE agent push someone down who was too close to them, who was maybe spitting on them, who was throwing an ice bottle at them, who was obstructing them, who was ramming their car into them. I could see them pushing them, seeing someone push down, and as Mr. Presti did, come in and in the moment, because of the passion and the anger, get in trouble. Mr. Presti was probably a basically good person. He made a grave error by doing something that he shouldn't have done. Kristi Noem, probably not an evil person, probably did a lot of good things for the state of South Dakota. She overstated something. Why don't we all just look at one another across the table and say, you know what? I've made mistakes, my side mistakes. You want to talk about one or two that you're made? And if that person is not willing to do that, then I think they're probably deserving of canceling. What say you, Stephanie Bell?
Well, it's a little personal for me because I hear this, and you know, you played the audio of the lady on social media who said, "I hope Caroline Leavitt has like a horrible delivery and is like
tears
injured
from stem to stern." And yeah,
I'm not going to say that, but it was bad, and it reminds me of I went to a conference with lawyers after the 2020 election, and many of the lawyers who were involved in some of the election litigation were getting death threats and horrible, nasty, we would have to bleep the messages. And they actually played some in the room. And I thought, you know, I'm glad I've never been in a situation where, I mean, people have said some nasty things to me, but not threatening me like that. But again, we talked about these ICE officers are, technically trying to just do their job. They're not, the orders aren't, coming from them, right? The orders are coming from above, and it's really tough. And especially, I know, John, we have the state of the judiciary here in Missouri. I think it's tomorrow morning. And I know in the last several years, it's been a hot topic for even judges, right? Of how do we keep our judges safe when, they catch heat for when they're doing their job, making decisions, doing what they're constitutionally charged to do, and people don't like it. And I've not heard I haven't heard the voicemails that are left for them, but I think we've heard about threats and other safety issues. And you think, I mean, the fact that there are people out there who call and I don't
know what's happened.
It's terrifying.
There's nothing new under the sun in that regard, Stephanie. Think back to, some of the Cole County judges over the years who didn't make much of a secret that they were armed and dangerous while they were on the bench during trial and all. So
and think about,
it's a scary time.
Yeah, well, and think about the reporting you and Brian did on the guy who had said all the nasty things about Governor Kehoe and was recently, picked up in Florida. I mean, the things he was saying was just awful. And
well,
again,
it's just a shame that it's come to this kind of a fevered pitch. And I think, there is a large swath of the American public that knows in their heart of hearts that if enough people, quote, blinked and said, you know what, this is out of hand, we got to stop it. Let's dial it down. That they're afraid that if they blink in this time with this media, with this social media, with this 24-hour news cycle, that they're going to just get crucified for admitting that, well, maybe I could have done it better. Maybe my side could have done it better.
But I think that's what we're seeing from Trump. I think, to his credit, as someone who was almost senselessly murdered, right? People like the watchers of the White House are saying, Trump doesn't like he's personally devastated by these issues, by the fact that we are seeing these, regardless of whose fault it is, the loss of life, right? Like, he is personally bothered by that. And so I think him, in being the leader of our country, taking the first step to lower the temperature and say, hey, look, let's make a change here and let's see if we can't, lower the temperature. I'm going to talk to Walls. We've got to do something. I think sets a different tone. And despite the mistakes I think that we've identified that the administration has made here, I think he's doing the right thing late yesterday, this morning.
And look, I mean, to admit that something is not totally black and white, that there are different shades of gray, is not to admit that your policy or your worldview or your wish for everyone's welfare and how to get there is wrong because one or another of the people that are implementing your vision got it wrong, or maybe in retrospect could have done something different. And it may turn out that this investigation shows that, they thought he had a gun. He had a gun. Someone yelled gun. The gun went off inadvertently, or they just, in the moment, in all of the chaos, they shot. It could be that, in the moment, it's understandable what they did. And instead of abolishing ICE and letting criminals run free on the streets and be released by sanctuary cities, maybe everyone can get a little bit of what they want, right? If everyone just agrees that human beings are not perfect. And if you expect perfection, then I'm going to expect the same out of you. Now, we had a very good listener who's frequently communicates with us, says, if the senior citizens that went on an undocumented tour of the Capitol on January 6th were, quote, domestic terrorists and insurrectionists, what shall we call these people that try to interfere with deportation of molesters, thieves? You know what? I think what it would be wise to do is not say, you called some of my friends domestic terrorists when all they were doing was walking around the Capitol, looking around at the rotunda. I'm going to do the same to you. No, there's a better way. The better way is to say, you know what? You on the left called, Granny, 65-year-old Granny that walked into the rotunda and waved her flag and said, oh, this is the people's capital. You're going to call her domestic terrorist, put her away for 18 months? I'm not going to do that to the people who are doing what they're doing, but can we agree that both were wrong?
Yes.
They're just not terrorists.
Some good insights on our text line here. Sandy says, wait till the facts come out. And I saw this message from Paul, who said, yeah, I give the administration credit for trying to lower the temperature. He says, another important step would be to take steps to have a very transparent investigation with a variety of agencies. And I think Sandy and Paul are kind of saying the same thing. That's another, they could commit to, a multi-agency saying, hey, there's a lot of varying stories going on here, but what we are committed to is getting to the bottom of this and finding out the facts.
Yeah, but here's the problem. The left doesn't trust what Walz and the Minnesotan investigators would say. The left doesn't trust what the administration's investigators would say. So do we need an independent commission like the JFK Commission? Do we need something like that? And who would staff that? Everything has become so judgmental in terms of because you've identified or are identified with one side or the other, therefore anything you say from the view of the other side is not credible. It's biased. Therefore, nothing can be true. I mean, that's where we're at now. Angela, I think you got it right. Angela's got it right. Lack of Jesus exacerbates this evil. We saw it escalate to incredible portions during COVID. Those of us who refuse to take the jab have a thick skin to these types of calls. But that is those calls that I played, by the way, the threats against the wife of a ICE agent on the one hand and the ICE agent on the other were from DHS.gov. Those are actual recordings of one was, I think, an Instagram post. The other is the other. It's very interesting. We live in an interesting time, and glad that you're a part of it with the commentary. Hopefully, in our day-to-day interactions with people with whom we disagree or that may see things from a different way, perhaps we can begin to talk with one another again and not past one another. Be nice, wouldn't it? Be real nice. Well, when we come back, we're going to make Missouri healthy again. And today, I thought it would be good to maybe look at some healthy nutrients. The number one nutrient that a healthy aging expert reveals might be healthy for you. We'll talk about that a little bit and some other longevity tips on Make Missouri Healthy Again. Stay tuned.
It's Wake Up
longevity medicine is just really getting a lot of legs, and people are really trying to figure out some of the. Stephanie, you've heard probably about some of the ultra wealthy that are just crazy. I mean, they're just going. That's their mission now is to, they're doing peptides and injectables and all kinds of novel treatments, right?
And the testing that's available now too. Like I know, like you can go if you're a big time CEO, you can go pay someone like 10 or 15 grand, and they can tell you all sorts of stuff about your health and longevity.
Much of which you can't change and is inevitably not going to work out real well. So there's a double-edged sword to that genetic testing. There are people advertising, hey, learn all about it. Well, before you get genetic testing, you might consider really doing some thoughtful, careful pondering of what it's going to mean. But how about just some practical, healthy aging tips, like prioritizing fiber? It's a big deal. Fiber is great. Protein is great. We often talk about that now, protein forward, fiber forward diet is a fabulous idea. It's estimated only 5% of us reach the recommended fiber goals. That's pretty wild. That's about 30 grams a day for women and up to 35 for men.
What would constitute 30 grams of fiber in your diet?
That would probably be
half a bottle of Metamucil.
Yeah.
Right.
A whole box of shredded
that's
wheat.
where that 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables, most of it vegetables, right? So if you eat fibrous vegetables, non-starchy vegetables, you get a lot of fiber that way. And then that's one kind of fiber. The other is what's called the soluble fiber, and that's where you get like your oats are a very important thing there. And it's great, it's interesting. We're hearing about ever younger ages of colon cancer, right? We're hearing about people in their 20s and 30s and, yes, their 40s getting that. And fiber is just really, really very, very good for the colon. Could it be that our ultra-processed diet that our kids have been so indoctrinated into for the last, generation or two may have something to do with that? I don't know. It would probably be 2 to 3 generations now. Type 2 diabetes has a lot to do with inadequate fiber intake, or at least the management of it. Heart disease and certainly colon cancer, as I mentioned. So that's probably a big one. And I think the other big thing that I'm hearing as I survey the landscape of the longevity, and not only how long you live, but how healthy that lifespan is movement. We've talked about how sometimes when it comes to exercise, I don't know about you, but many of us, I think, oh man, I can't make it to the gym for a 45-minute workout. I got work to do. I got things to do. I got leftovers from the office. I've got to repair the leaky faucet. Well, if you just do a few minutes every day, better yet, if you're in a sedentary job where you're sitting at a computer a lot, it turns out that sort of some interrupted sedentary lifestyle by just dropping and doing some push-ups. Do a couple push-ups. Just drop and do 10 push-ups. Do some squats.
Wear some extra deodorant that day. I worry about getting sweaty in my work clothes, right? And so then it's like, I got to change my clothes and then I got to go do this.
But if you lay down and just do some leg lifts, just do some leg lifts for half a minute or a minute, just something to keep yourself moving. It's so important. You've mentioned the under desk cycle machine. That's a good thing.
I've got an actual treadmill in my office, and then I've got the under the desk thing. It goes pretty slow. I'm really worried I'm going to fall while trying to email. But I think one of the biggest shifts for me was several years ago. I went to a standing desk, right? So I don't sit during the day. I've noticed my back, I used to have serious back pain that could have been all the pregnancies. But I think since, so when I'm on a call, I'm kind of moving around, shifting my weight side to side. It keeps me just moving more throughout the day, I think. So I really like the standing desk.
Well, we've the other day we had a retreat, a programming retreat at the Zimmer Communications headquarters, and some of us got to talking about standing up doing the show. For years, I stood up doing the show. I love standing. It gives you energy, keeps you moving. Great, just great core exercise just by standing. So
a lot of our studios were initially built that way to be a standing
ways
board
to
up.
incorporate. How about standing meetings? Some people do that. Let's talk about social media and a lawsuit going on in L.A. when we come back.
From the Zimmer Radio Network headquarters,
If you go and insult a federal law enforcement officer, we're going to use every resource of the federal government to put you in prison.
It's your morning addiction.
This is a battle that must be fought.
Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News Team.
And go hit the ground hard and relentlessly.
And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
Absolutely unacceptable, terrible, awful. ICE agents are just doing their job, and I fully support that. And for me, and people in my party might want to abolish it or treat them as criminals or anything that's inappropriate and outrageous. ICE performs an important job for.
Well, there's going to be that's John Fetterman, of course, seems to be the only Democrat in the country who has any support for our immigration law enforcement officials, including ICE and our Border Patrol folks. And things are going to be changing. The temperature will be changing, apparently, in Minneapolis. I don't mean the weather outside. I mean the temperature of the enforcement force there. Joining us now is Paul Perez. He's the president of the Border Patrol Council. And Paul, we just played in the previous block. Welcome into the program, Wake Up Missouri. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
In the previous block hour, we played some of the most hateful, vitriolic comments. One was on Instagram. The others are, I don't know where they get them from, but on DHS website, they're posting these comments. And the threats to ICE and Border Patrol agents have skyrocketed 8,000%. It's really a time of a siege for people just trying to do their job, your colleagues and your Border Patrol buddies. And what say you about the current temperature of the attitude towards you and yours?
Well, none of us like it, but we got to place the blame where the blame lies, and that's with the politicians and the liberal media that are spreading this anti-Border Patrol and anti-ICE rhetoric, calling us, comparing us to Nazis. I mean, that's one of the foulest things you can do, I mean, nothing about what we do is relatable to anything that the Nazis did. And when you call an agency that is more than 50% Hispanic Nazis, that's really low. And so a lot of the people that are out there listening to that rhetoric, they don't know what's going on. They haven't taken the time to actually verify what they believe to be facts. And the fact is this: our agents are out there performing law enforcement functions, targeted operations, to get some of the worst off the streets, as President Trump promised America that he would do. And so what happens is you've got these highly organized and paid protesters and agitators that will come out there and start interfering and impeding with our officers and agents. And that leads to these confrontations that you see on videos. So if you just look at the videos, you would think that our agents are just out there confronting protesters. What they're doing is trying to protect their fellow agents and officers who are engaged in the lawful law enforcement operations. They have to provide backup because the local police and local and state police aren't responding because of the policies that are put in place by a lot of these sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. So it's very, very difficult for us to be able to do the job without getting assaulted and interfered with. And that's what's going on. So, I place the blame on the politicians that have a voice and the left-leaning media that is out there spewing this rhetoric and this false narrative about our agents and officers.
Okay,
That's
well,
where the problem lies.
Border Patrol officials, ICE agent officials have not been given the opportunity to ask a couple questions. I just want if we can do some lightning round stuff here, that scenarios that are alleged by people in Minnesota. Border Patrol and ICE are going door to door. They're in our schools. They're in our cafeterias. They're just randomly going door to door, searching for people and asking them for their papers. Why is that
Absolutely
being said?
not.
What evidence does there exist for that? And if there's an appearance of that, if that's an optic, what leads to that optic? How is that being spewed?
Again, because of these agitators and protesters out there filming, what our agents and officers are doing are targeted enforcement operations. They're not doing sweeps. They're not going out and just looking for people. They're doing targeted enforcement operations based off intelligence gained, and so we're looking after the worst of the worst. We're looking for those people, and we're looking for them where they may be. We're not going door to door asking, hey, is this person here? We know more or less where they're at, where they work, where they hang out, and that's where we're going to get after them. And so we're not doing this door-to-door search like these people are accusing us of doing. That's not legal.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that's false. That is 100% false.
We're talking with Paul Perez. He's the president of the Border Patrol Council on Wake Up Missouri today.
Paul, lessons learned from the whole George Floyd incident and subsequent conviction of the cop there. How is that, excuse me, how does that play into, I guess, in-service training, not just for ICE or BP, but law enforcement agencies nationwide?
Yeah, so, I mean, we have some of the best training in the country. Our law enforcement academy is one of the top law enforcement academies in the country. Our agents and officers not only go basic training, attend basic training, but we do training throughout the year on de-escalation techniques. And I can tell you, look, based on the videos and based on discussions with a lot of the agents, they have used extreme restraint. This the two situations that have led to shootings, I mean, those were unfortunate incidents, but at the end of the day, our officers and agents, they felt their lives or the lives of their coworkers were in danger, and they took the actions they needed to take based off of their training. And so when you've got people that are slowing videos down and you've got people rewinding videos and saying, hey, well, look, I just saw this and I saw that, those agents and officers didn't have the benefit of 20/20 hindsight. They had to make decisions, life or death decisions, in split seconds, milliseconds, because of the fact that they are trained to protect themselves, their fellow agents, and innocent third parties. So we have very, very good training. Our agents and officers undergo a substantial amount of training on de-escalation techniques, on use of force, and they're very familiar with the law as it applies to the use of deadly force.
Several of our listeners have texted in and said, hey, we've got to get the facts out there and we need a full and complete investigation. Talk to us once an incident does occur, what does that post-incident investigation reporting look like? Yeah,
absolutely. And just like any other law enforcement agency, we, the Border Patrol, will not undertake that investigation. That is done by separate entities to ensure that there's an objective investigation into the incident and the use of force, the use of deadly force in this case. So there are procedures in place to make sure that somebody not involved in the shooting in any way, shape, or form is taking an objective look. There are HSI investigators, there's FBI investigators, there's Office of Professional Responsibility investigators. They're all going to look at this. They're going to take it, and they're going to break down everything that occurred. They're going to talk to everybody that was involved, and they're going to look at the facts. They're not going to enter their opinions. They're going to look at the facts, and they're going to present that to a person that's going to look at everything and make a decision on how to proceed.
We're talking with Paul Perez. He's the president of the Border Patrol Council here on Wake Up Missouri. I'm Randy Tobler, along with Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, and Drake Whitman. Now, Paul, another thing that everyone, and they see it more isolated on CNN and MSNBC and the left legacy media, is the moment, and it happened in this latest shooting, right before the shooting. It appears as though the victim, Mr. Presti, intervened when a person, I heard it said by one reporter that it was a woman. You see the Border Patrol or ICE agent. I can't distinguish between the two unless it says ICE on their uniform. Shove the woman down or the person down. You see some of these incidents, and that's usually where the real starts. It's like all of a sudden someone's being pushed down and they fall down on their back, and then, optically isolated, it looks a little concerning. What are the circumstances in which you, a Border Patrol agent, would push someone down and shove them to the ground? What kind of allowances are for that?
Yeah, so in this particular incident, we don't know what led to that, shove. And so there are times where people are interfering. They get too close. Mm-hmm. Nobody in general wants people in their personal space, but law enforcement officers, in this case, who are on a heightened state of alert, who are on a heightened state of awareness because of everything that's been going on, they are going to make sure that nobody can get near them and have access to their weapons or any equipment that they carry. So I couldn't tell you specifically why, that shove happened, but I can tell you in the past, agents have been assaulted, they've been spit on, they've been slapped. There's so many reasons that you would not want anybody in your personal space. And again, back to that specific issue, I can't tell you what happened, but if the agent did it, he did it because he felt it was justified to create distance and space.
Maybe I've missed it, but I haven't heard Greg Bovino. Maybe you've been on other outlets and said it, but I haven't heard that particular scenario addressed. And I think for those of us who have common sense, we get it. If you're a law enforcement officer of any type and, someone gets close to your, within arm's reach of your sidearm, that's a red line, right? I mean, you don't cross it. And I think many of the people who are so TDS, so anti-ICE, anti-immigration enforcement, anti-law enforcement for that matter, they don't even understand that very common sense reality that could lead to that moment when then that leads to the, to someone being shoved, and they don't understand that. It's an incredible thing. How are people doing in terms of their ranks? Are there people that are resigning? Are there people that are not signing up to become border agents because of the vitriol and the hatred and the unrealistic accusations that are going on?
Now, look, unfortunately, these things are cyclical. We under the Biden administration, we were, relegated to, desk jockeys, sitting behind a desk, releasing the millions of people that the Biden administration wanted to come in. So we're used to being the redheaded stepchildren in law enforcement. And with the support that we have from President Trump and his administration, right now we currently have more applicants to do this job than we've ever had before. This isn't going to stop it because, again, this is not something that happens on the day in and day out. And what your listeners need to know is throughout the country, we've got a tremendous amount of support. This is only happening in these cities where, lawlessness reigns because the politicians, the mayors, won't get this thing in order. They won't allow their police or state police to come in and help with crowd control or riot control. But we've arrested millions of people throughout the country, and we haven't had these types of issues happen in certain places like Texas or other places where they are allowing local and state law enforcement to assist our agents and officers in removing the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
So we have no shortage of applicants. Morale for doing the job is great. Where we do take a hit in morale is when they allow these people to dox us and go after our families.
Well, that can't happen, and we need to continue to keep supporting the agents who are doing the very, very tough work, the thankless, truly thankless job in some of those jurisdictions. And, Paul, please give our best to all of the folks that you work with in your group. Thanks for being with us.
Will do.
All right,
Thank you,
there
sir.
he is, Paul Perez. When we come back, we gotta mix it up on this. I mean, this is just crazy. I don't understand why people don't understand that these people are doing an incredible tough job. Did you hear about the guy that climbed to the top of one of the tallest buildings in the world? That when we come back on Wake Up.
It's Wake Up
I don't. Did you see this on Saturday night? Was it Saturday night? Friday? Was it Saturday on Netflix? All of a sudden, we're getting text from our adult kids, and it's like, I can't do it. I can't watch it. Oh, I'm nauseated. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? There was this thing. There was this live. It took about an hour and a half of a guy that apparently he's known for climbing. And
he's done it.
He climbed to the top.
Alex Honnold has made history again.
He climbed to the top of this, like the 11th tallest skyscraper in the world. And I've never seen anything like it. You watch some of the escapades that he did.
He's taking a selfie. Because 2026.
Okay, so this guy is Alex Honnold, Honnold. Climbed up the Taipei 101 building in Taiwan. 1,667 feet tall, 11th tallest building in the world. Now, picture the sort of the pagoda style, architecture that you see. Well, this is a modern version of that. And so a lot of it is just steel and glass on the way up. And somehow this guy is grabbing on. He's got little suction cups, I think, when he needs them. No ropes, no safety, no nothing. And from time to time, there's like a shelf that's like 2 feet out from the building, think of a pagoda. And he reaches up and somehow pulls himself up with one or both arms and somehow leverage him to where then I have never seen anything like it. I watched bits and pieces of it, but it was so tense and anxiety provoking. I couldn't watch it completely.
Well, you weren't going to watch him fall to his death because reportedly he got paid $500,000 by Netflix, and they were like streaming it or something, right?
It was live. It was streamed.
But it wasn't live. What? It was on like a 10-second delay.
Oh,
just in case. They needed to,
I
cut
didn't
the
want to
feed.
see him fall. I didn't.
Well, you weren't going to. They had protections in place for that, but that's terrifying. I hate heights. I can't, I close my eyes on the ski lift.
Brian Hansen and I were talking. John, I don't know. Stephanie, do you clean out the gutters at your home?
Heck no. I don't.
We were talking about how on one side of the roof with the same pitch, if you've got a 30-foot fall and you're on the roof cleaning out gutters or doing something, you can't bring yourself to do it. But if you're on the other side and it's only a 10-foot fall, not a problem. I can do that.
Talk to the firefighters. They're the ones who are fearless when it comes to heights.
Ooh.
Oh, man.
No, thank you.
This was an amazing.
Has America been fair to
Thanks for being with us on Wake Up Missouri. Appreciate your being a part of our text line at 573-874-9390. The call-in number, 800-529-5572. And, one of the topics we keep circling back around to, Stephanie, John, Drake, are social media, the influence on our kids, screen time. I think the evidence is clear that there's too much of an otherwise, helpful thing in some places, and enjoyable pastime may not be a good thing, especially for our children. We've seen instances where kids get in trouble because they get so engrossed in it. They either get wooed to a bad actor and they disappear, or maybe they just get distracted from their studies.
How many kids do you know that got wooed to a bad actor through social media that disappeared?
But it happens. Yeah.
Okay.
It happens. In fact, there's a case going on now with Roblox. There's a 15-year-old girl that's missing because apparently she did something with Roblox, and I don't know Roblox from beans, but it's apparently an online gaming.
I'd be interested to know what their daily average usage is.
Yeah.
You can also.
Well, now there's a trial going on, according to
That's
one
like
of my
saying
favorites.
You shouldn't play in the front yard because there's dudes in white bands coming around snatching people.
One of my favorite reads every night before I go to bed is Courthouse News Service. It's one of my favorites.
Mine too, every night.
Well, this is going to be a first. For the first time ever, social media executives, Zuckerberg among them, from Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, are going to be, this is a civil trial that's beginning today in L.A., and opening arguments will begin next week. So the question is, were Meta, Google, ByteDance negligent in designing their platforms to maximize the time spent on them? A 19-year-old unnamed woman that brought the suit says that that negligence was a substantial factor in causing anxiety, depression, and social media addiction, which is now a diagnosis, social media addiction.
Unfortunately.
So I think your stance has been pretty clear, right? You want to restate
that it's
it?
Not, again, we talked about this yesterday.
Yeah.
It is not the computer's fault.
Yeah.
It is not the platform's fault. It is a human problem. We have some of us are more predisposed to addictive behaviors than others. And there are lots of vices, whether it's, substances or whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
And people who are predisposed to that need to have some self-discipline or some professional guidance or some medication to assist them in daily functioning, I believe. And I think if we're pointing the fingers at anyone but ourselves, we're doing the wrong thing. And I don't think okay, so they're, oh my goodness, they design the platform so you'll spend time on it. It's a business, right? It's a business.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what? My credit card, the more I use it, the more points it gives me, and the more I spend, the more rewards I can get. Isn't a hallmark of business repeat customers and time with your product? Again, in the 90s, we blamed video games. Before that, we blamed something else. The number of hours I spent on AOL and I spent on, Instant Messenger. And the problem with that is
MySpace.
I really didn't ever get into MySpace, but I'm thinking about it. The problem with AOL Instant Messenger was you didn't have it in your pocket. And so I had to be and remember back then you had a computer room? You had to dedicate a room in your house to your computer because it was so big. You had to have a big desk and everything. You couldn't just take a laptop. I was tethered to that computer room and I kept the volume all the way up. So when I got the little chirp, I was like, ooh, one of my friends is online and I can chat with them. The number of hours I spent, same thing, in my dorm room, tethered to my desk on a computer, I think I turned out okay. I didn't point the finger and say, oh my gosh, it was addicting. No, I wanted to talk to my friends and I had every normal teenager anxiety and FOMO, right? That's on me. And if it wasn't AOL Instant Messenger, it would have been something else.
Remember the AOL CDs that came in the mail about every other month that had the basic software on them so you could hook up?
My favorite, I was a nerd, but I had a CD with the Encyclopedia Britannica on it or whatever, and I thought that was awesome. I still have. If you probably have seen these. They're navy and they've got gold writing and they're the Young Learner's Library. And my youngest actually was like, what is that? And I said, it's an encyclopedia. And she said, what is that? Because now they don't know the difference between just Wikipedia and other research tools and a book encyclopedia. But no, I think like pointing the finger, today, it was video games. Before it was AOL and chat rooms. Today it's social media. And actually now it's almost moving past them and, a lot of finger pointing at AI. And I just...
Oh, heck, before that, it was hard rock and devil worshiper lyrics.
There you go. Rap music was in the hopper for a while. We're all the violence and world's ills are caused by one guy saying, dirty words in a song. No, thank you. Point the finger. Look in the dang mirror. I think I heard someone say that earlier this morning.
No, that's true. No, I agree with you. But I think when it comes to children, that you can't always control. Well, I guess maybe it's possible to control that.
Yeah, I think a lot of parents, when you got locked out of the computer room or they unplugged your Ethernet or your phone line or whatever it was plugged into back in those days.
It's a pragmatic problem for a lot of parents who, unless they want to isolate their children into some kind of a bubble where they don't ever get exposed to other kids that have a supercomputer in their hands and get exposed to this kind of stuff, it gets to be difficult. And most parents, I think, are providing some kind of, connection, at age 12, 13, 14 at the latest?
We gave our kid a phone at 13.
So why don't we allow children to drink and smoke drugs and smoke weed and do psilocybin? I mean, after all, why don't we just make it legal?
I know parents who will let their kids have alcohol before 21.
So are you in the Gary
home.
Nolan camp? By the way, you can join Gary at 9:00 after we're off the air. Are you in the Gary Nolan camp? Let's keep drugs legal because, after all, it's parents' responsibility to control it. It's kids' responsibility to control it. Just make it all legal, including hallucinogens. Why not? I mean, LSD, everything
I think
else.
I'm probably closer to Gary Nolan than I am to you, actually, on that
Oh,
issue.
I'm absolutely with it, but only in the context of no welfare system. That's where you and I disagree. You support a social safety net that doesn't allow people's behavior to result in consequences.
I've never said that.
Well, I'm for abolishing it. I think it should all be private. And you're okay with a public system. And I agree that's a practical matter.
Yeah, I think I'm more of a realist than you are as well.
Oh, wait. Listen to this.
But I think, as far as the phone thing goes, I think you have to take some personal responsibility. Like, again, we talked about making mistakes earlier. Kids are going to make mistakes. You have to, try to navigate that. I'm not saying it's easy and I'm not saying I have it figured out, but I do think there are positives of the phones, right? Like, I mean, I can find out where they are. I know yesterday, this was so sweet. I felt comfortable letting my kid, traipse around the neighborhoods because he had a phone on him so I could see where he was at and get a hold of him or whatever. And he was able, you're off school. He was able to text a friend and say, hey, I think we could go shovel some neighbors' driveways and make some money. Man, I'm just saying props to all of you lovely people in Ashland, Missouri who opened your doors and let, 2 kids shovel your driveway for some cash because you really made their day. And you made my day because I was like, well, what a productive way to spend your day. And had he not had a phone and been able to, get a hold of his friend and I've
been sitting home playing video games all day.
100%, John. And so it does give them some independence and flexibility. And he was actually like, well, maybe I could get Venmo and then I could accept mobile payments. And I was like, I'm not sure about that. And, do they still beg me for that? They don't have social media as far as I know. If my kids have social media, you let me know because they're not supposed to. But they still want all of the features and I say no. Right. And the phones are, you have to do your research, but my understanding is, and I think Southern Boone had a really nice program a few years ago. Maybe I wish they do that annually. I don't think they do. Kind of teaching parents, like, here are the apps you need to know about. Here are the controls, you can do, and kind of education, because you do have to educate yourself, but you can limit app time. You can, you can prevent them from downloading apps without your permission, all of those things. I mean, it's an investment in your time, though, and it's a pain. It can be a pain.
No, there's no doubt that there's a victim mentality, and I agree with that. I think where I get hung up is without some guide rails that are set either through the courts or actions like this, and guardrails. I mean, if you watch The Social Addiction, that documentary from a few years ago, these executives often, in hindsight, they're not letting their own kids get involved with this, but they're executives. They're people that are informed, and the government and the courts and maybe we the people, it could be argued, have some responsibility to protect those who won't protect themselves or who can't protect themselves or who maybe don't come from a worldview and an ability to keep an eye on their kids at all times, right?
But we spend so much time talking about the ills. And again, I talked about snow shoveling, but look at how old is Mr. Beast? I mean, look at the number of 20-somethings who have not taken a traditional path, who have learned social media, learned algorithms, learned coding, and have made an incredible life for themselves that otherwise they wouldn't have been able to do.
Well, they've made a lot of money for themselves. Have they really contributed to society by making the availability of endless? I mean,
he is not going to let
I would
this
say
go.
that if I back out, I think
problems.
it's fair to say that you couch your arguments very often in success is measured by monetary gain.
Oh,
do you know who
that
Mr.
is
Beast
a
is?
Shot.
Well, you've said that a lot. Well, look, it's a successful business. I can make a lot of money. They can make a lot of money. We can do a lot of money. If I learn to do an algorithm, at some point, if what you do...
How much money is too much? I haven't found that yet, but I'm working on it.
If what you do potentially adds harm to someone, there are people in the medical business that are frankly promulgating snake oil, and they're making a lot of money. So is it good that they're making a lot of money because they're promulgating snake oil? Like, I think of Laetrile as a cure for cancer. People make a buttload of money doing that. Does that make them good, successful people? If money is the metric, yes. If service to their patient is the metric, no.
Mr. Beast isn't Mark Zuckerberg's not making money off of Mr. Beast. The people, because Mr. Beast makes his money on YouTube, first of all, but they're setting up these platforms that allow all sorts of people to work from home to make their own money. The people that are in charge of these platforms aren't, they make a little bit of money off there, but they're enabling. You think about, for example, the website Etsy, right? There's a kind of a social aspect to that. People can, a stay-at-home mom can sit at home, do cross-stitch, knit, make prints, calendars, whatever, and provide for her family in a way that we wouldn't be able to do without technology. And so I think while focusing on all the ills, while ignoring all of the many benefits.
Well, hang on. Well, I object, Your Honor. I did not ignore. Don't put words in my mouth. I did not ignore. Don't.
Have you ever heard?
I know how you attorneys like to do that. Now, what you said, I did not ignore that, counselor. So, objection sustained?
Go ahead.
Objection sustained?
Let's vote. Have you ever heard Randy say anything good about social media or AI?
I love social media in the proper place at the proper time in adult hands, discerning hands.
Only for boomers.
Talk about Mr. Beast. Look at all the money he's given to charity. He's a generous guy.
Exactly. More money for us to help our friends and neighbors.
It's all about the money.
His whole thing that he does is give $10,000 tips to people, help homeless people out.
573-874-9390. Good discussion. I guess those are both closing arguments. John, what's your closing argument here?
Honey to the moon.
Okay. And back in 10 days. We'll see you in a few.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
This.
For the low, low price of $250,000, you can be one of the first to reserve a room at a luxury Moon Hotel. Startup founded by Skylar Chan hopes to deploy the hotel to the moon by 2032. It will offer views of the lunar landscape and Earth along with surface experiences including moonwalks, rover driving, golfing, and other activities. They say the first hotel expected to last 10 years will be like a bounce house, inflatable. Wow. After that, a more permanent and expanded facility will be put on the moon. They say we live during an inflection point where we can actually become interplanetary before we die. They're likely customers, adventurers, couples looking to honeymoon, and recent spaceflight participants. Now they're saying they're even talking about duplicating original NASA astronaut food, serving up coffee, jerky, and the ever-popular glass of steak.
Hey, don't
so there
forget
you go.
Don't forget the tang.
The tang. You have to have the
some
tang.
Glass of steak. Would you? Well, I don't know. Stephanie, you're pretty adventuresome. You like to travel. Would you go to the moon and hang out for a little while?
I don't think so. We were talking about biggest fears after you talked about that guy who climbed the building. And I think one of mine is like heights. Like I have a physical reaction to heights. I was talking to Brian Hansen outside about he's apparently claustrophobia is a big one for him. Doesn't
I don't like that one
small
either.
spaces. And yeah, my sister's got that. She doesn't like elevators. And I think like getting sucked into a black hole or like being lost in space or like...
Yeah.
Do you like spontaneously combust or do you like suffocate? I should know this. If you like, if your air suit goes bad or like you're in outer space and you're just,
you're an inflatable structure that gets hit by micro meteors and pops a hole in it, right?
Yeah, remember we had Peter on one day, and he said he had this this crazy fear. He didn't like the Jeep thing with all the ducks because he's like, if you get in a car accident, you get pummeled with rubber ducks. That's kind of a weird fear, but maybe that's what it feels like to be pummeled by space trash or whatever. If you're, it's maybe an irrational fear, but
I don't know. Drake, would you do the moon thing?
I mean, no, I don't like heights, and I just don't trust NASA enough to put.
But does it invoke the fear of heights if you're just like in nothingness? Like I don't think you would get that same like if you can't like.
It might be worth it for me. Just the one activity you mentioned, John. For the only time in my life I could get a 500-yard drive.
Yeah, there you go.
You said golfing. Could you imagine, man? That puppy would
was that? One of the
never stop.
Yeah, who was it? Was it Alan Shepard or one of the Apollo astronauts took a golf club head and had it machined so they could screw it onto the handle that they used to pick up samples with and like you said, hit a golf ball for a mile.
Yeah, Randy, instead of going maybe 50 yards, maybe it'll go 100 if you go to the moon.
I've said that. When I tee off, people nearby have to wear a helmet and body armor because half the time it hits the little, gold, blue, white. It hits with the one downstream from wherever I'm teeing off and bounces back,
Shouldn't you be playing on the front because you're like...
Well, that would be the ladies' tee. I don't know. I'm not that honest.
Got to go from the champ tees.
I haven't transitioned to the ladies' tee yet. I don't know. Maybe I should. Oh, it's crazy, isn't it? Hey, when we come back, let's review what's going on. See if Tom Homan's up to anything, and review what's going on in Minneapolis on Wake Up Missouri. Stay tuned.
For unity. I know my husband, the president, had a great call yesterday with the governor and the mayor, and they're working together to make it peaceful and without riots. I'm against the violence, so if you protest in peace. And we need to unify in this time.
Well, that's Melania Trump this morning on the Fox News Network. I think maybe, just maybe, as we watch this unrest, this, well, some say insurrection, not too far from the truth, lack of respect for authority, and the rhetoric at a fevered pitch, as we see this just continue to boil and bubble, maybe, just maybe, the voice of the First Lady can turn things around. Stephanie, I mean, it's that was one of the most reasonable things that has been said in a long time. Just, very quiet, measured, and let's unify.
I like her.
Ahead of her.
Her documentary is coming out soon. I can't wait.
You going to watch it?
Yeah.
See, I asked friends in my orbit, some of whom are very anti-Trump, anti-MAGA, and they said, no way, not going to touch it. I actually think that Melania was fabulous, especially, remember, during the first term, spent a lot of time in New York when Barron was still in school, remember? And she sort of stood down for a while from the high profile because it was about being a mom and raising the kid. And plus, she does it.
And he had a whole floor to himself in Trump Tower.
Plus, can we all agree that, man, does she do one great job of overseeing or approving or curating the Christmas decorations every year at the White House? Holy cow, man, they're beautiful. Very, very cool. As opposed to Biden. Remember Biden, they had some weird things going on at their decorations. But that's a matter of taste, I guess. 573-874-9390. Will this be the icebreaker? The call yesterday between Walz and Trump and then Fry and Trump? From both sides, at least some conciliatory comments. Trump, is it fair to say that Trump, after what did you say, a meeting with the principal, right, Stephanie? 2-hour meeting with Kristi Noem?
Yeah, for Trump, we're used to 2-hour speeches. I wonder how many words she got in. Yeah. But it kind of sounded like, I haven't heard of any other 2-hour one-on-one meetings with other officials.
Yeah.
Not great.
Yeah.
But she's scheduled in early March, I believe, to testify before the Judiciary Committee.
Yeah. And Tom Homan, who's really, I think, very respected among law enforcement officials in that realm, in the immigration realm. He served under, 5 different presidents, I believe?
Something like that.
So he has a vast record of service in the immigration realm. And he makes no bones about it. When people violate the law, they violate the law, and they need to be made accountable. I mean, there's no more vociferous, forceful, actualized spokesperson than that. But that's the other reporting that's coming out. There are, again, anonymous sources are telling reporters, and these are from within DHS, that they're really unhappy with the leadership and the rhetoric coming down. When they call the guy that got killed, Presti, a terrorist, or I think that was the word initially that they used for Renee Good, right? And, I think we got to be careful about that, whether or not you believe it's true. I mean, remember your audience. If you're speaking to an audience of people that are being stirred up and triggered by the things that are said by their leadership, Walz and Fry, okay, that's the reality. Those are the people. They're locked and loaded for hatred and action, as we've seen, and unseemly behavior against the people that you're trying to defend, your ICE agents, your Border Patrol agents. So you probably need to be a little careful about who you're talking to. And overlaying on that, as you've mentioned, John, is the overlay that the administration knows that they're really on the ropes when it comes to these midterms, both historically and I think in real time now with the polling. So they're also talking. They have to talk at one point to the progressives and the would-be radicals and the well-organized rioters up there. But on the other hand, they need to talk to the base, right? Because they need them to come out.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part of it, too. The biggest takeaway. Don't just presume that the base will be there 110% for you and go to the polls in the midterms without saying, hey, this is make it or break it. If you guys don't go to the polls, the other guys certainly will.
Yeah. It's a tough messaging task that they have ahead of them, and I don't think there's a magic way to thread that needle. I think they just need to keep talking about the facts, about the unknown facts, and recognize them for what they are. And they need to keep reminding people. Remember when we talked to Don Weaver and talked about how things are judged, at least on a local law enforcement perspective, and I guess on a federal too. I'm not certain about that. But when cops are judged, when law enforcement officers are judged on whether their actions in the moment were right or not, I think that the people who are trying to explain the actions of the ICE and Border Patrol officers, they need to explain to this that, remind people, put yourself in the moment. Put yourself in that moment. Could you imagine that some of these people may actually not agree with the policy that they are asked to enforce, that they're not, maybe they're more sympathetic to the protest. But in the moment, when someone is armed and he has a gun and he's resisting submitting to your authority, and you feel threatened or those around you feel threatened, that's where the decision node needs to be judged from. Not as Paul Perez, who joined us in the 7 o'clock hour. You can listen to him later on the podcast.
I thought he brought out an interesting point that Paul Perez did, who's basically the union guy for the Border Patrol.
Border Patrol, yeah.
He brought out that there is a lot of law enforcement support from other agencies that the Border Patrol and the ICE draw on. Remember when we had Greene County Sheriff Jim Arnott on with us back before the holidays? He talked about, he was pretty much good to go to be there to assist, ICE, Border Patrol. They come to their jurisdiction. And I know there's been, for lack of a better term, letters of intent signed by Callaway County and Pettis County and a whole bunch of agencies out there that they support the federal immigration folks big time.
But I've also heard a different perspective in that some law enforcement officers are criticizing ICE in just that, like, maybe they don't have the same training and they're like, gosh, you're making us all look bad. Is that true? Do ICE agents have less training? And
Walters says they're untrained or poorly trained. I forget the exact word.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the criticisms. I wonder from our local folks if they're watching the videos thinking that's not what I would have done.
Well, they're maybe differently trained, right? I mean, their mission is different, right?
That's fair. And I think, it's different from what we've heard, John, as you mentioned here in Missouri, where I think there's a lot of cooperation, and in places like Minnesota where there's none whatsoever.
Yeah, and I know the president scheduled some meetings with, I think, police chiefs from major cities to come in and get together. I don't know if it's going to be virtual or, all hands on deck to talk about their response to this and working with the feds. So this has been different than what we saw with the George Floyd thing, where you've got the local police agencies and the federal police agencies bumping heads and presumably not working together.
Yeah, that's what's amazing to me, because I always assumed that, with exception, now and then, when there's an egregious, absolute misstep, maybe someone just becomes unleashed, a cop, and, the fellow officers or, their organizations say, that was wrong. I've rarely seen that. But I always thought there was general cohesiveness and that officers across departments and jurisdictions and even, rank, tend to really be cohesive. But man, I don't
know. When we talked, remember our buddy, retired Highway Patrolman Tim Tennant, who's been on the air with us a few times, was one of Eric Greiton's personal security detachment. He was one of their bodyguards. He even admitted to us when the Secret Service comes to town, they pretty much take things over, and you local guys, you like it or don't like it, tough. We heard some of that same kind of discussion come out after the assassination attempt on the president and the Secret Service's
you're right.
responsibilities.
Hey, by the way, yesterday, did you see them frolicking around in D.C.? The D.C. was pretty much closed, and they were throwing snowballs at one another. Now, that's the kind of fun Americans should have. If you're going to protest and throw snowballs, not ice, not frozen ice balls. But I found a reporter. There was a reporter up there in D.C. yesterday during the snowstorm. Did you catch that? But yeah, here, you might want to catch a little report on the weather.
This is your favorite meteorologist reporting live from the snowstorm. It's very cold. It's colder than the average Somali IQ. It's very cold, very low temperatures. You know, their IQs are very low, but the temperatures are lower than that, which means it's very cold. You have big, beautiful flakes falling from the sky, fat flakes. It looks like Chris Christie falling out of the sky, but we get along very well with the snow. In a few hours, we're expecting ice. You love ice. We all love ice, except when it gets on the power lines. Then we want to abolish ice, but we hope the power stays on, and we hope you stay warm. You don't like it when your temperatures get lower than the Somali IQ. It's very hard to get that low, but it's very low. So the flakes are huge. The flakes are huge. The flakes are fat. Like Chris Christie falling out of the sky. The flakes are fat, but it's a big, beautiful snowstorm, and we made a tremendous deal with Mother Nature, and she's doing a fantastic job with this storm. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
There you go. Now he can dole out the French fries. He can get the trash truck to the pickup point, and now he's a meteorologist.
Well,
it's amazing.
And it's still
That's
very.
Sean Farish, by the way.
It's still very early, but rumors are circulating on Twitter, like early reports for next weekend, that potentially there's more snow headed for the East Coast. Right?
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
On a more serious note, this is Minnesota State Representative Alex Falconer, who was talking to a group of, it seems largely, and I don't want to, I can't validate this, but it seems largely Somali-type folks there in a room holding a town hall. This is a Minnesota State rep.
You know, yesterday we had the young man, 13-year-old, handcuffed by ICE, his father taken away. I arrived there as soon as I could. I talked to some of the family members. It's devastating. And I don't know, just going home and talking to my kids about what happened and how this is affecting our community. These are terrible times. But we will get through it. We'll get stronger for it. And we will look out for one another. Before coming to the state legislature, I'm a community organizer at heart.
There you go. There you go. That's a telltale sign. This guy is apparently part of an organized Signal-like type chat. And these things are highly organized. When you look into this, I mean, this resistance up there is amazing. It's widespread, well organized. The Money Report when we come back with Stephanie on the Morning Bell.
It's Wake Up
What are the markets doing, Stephanie?
They appear to be bolstered by Trump's response to what's going on in Minnesota, sending in Tom Homan, maybe preventing a government shutdown of Friday night. Perhaps, at least the chances are looking better. The Dow was up 0.64%, S&P up 0.50%, NASDAQ up 0.43%. As we look at who was leading the gainers, it was communication services, technology, and utilities. It's a big earnings week for MAG. 7 companies this week, and we've got so we'll keep our eyes on that. I think everyone's in the green for the year, but let's look at the futures. We've got the Dow futures are down, S&P futures up, NASDAQ futures up as well. Now, we were talking earlier, Randy, about AOL Instant Messenger, and it's got me feeling a little bit nostalgic. May it rest in peace. We killed AOL, and now something else that folks are saying is dead is the 9 to 5 workday.
Yeah.
Who works 9 to 5? It's 8 to 5, folks. Anyway, the new trend is called micro shifting, which means people don't work all day anymore. They just pop in between their regular life. Randy is exasperated.
How could you pop in and out of your job like that?
65% of office workers say they want more flexibility. And yeah, working 8 hours a week is tough on folks when they got a lot of demands. People say they'll even take a 9% pay cut just for flexible hours. And there are a lot of reasons for this. So apparently 62% of surveyed employees are caring for children at home. So that, you might have other demands during your day. 60% of folks are scheduling personal appointments during traditional work hours. And this is something that Randy's eyes just crossed. I mean, this is a problem because for, whether you need to get your hair done or your nails done or you need to go to the doctor, all of those people, you're a doctor, most of those people like to work 8 to 5 too. So if you're supposed to work 8 to 5 and the things you need done, those folks are only working 8 to 5, you got a problem, right? So
that's true.
The other reason is 1 in 5 workers is now poly-employed, a new term for me as well. Micro-shifting and poly-employed.
Well, people are taking extra gigs. Yeah.
Lots of people are juggling side hustles.
Blame it on the pandemic.
That's right. Well, managers admit that actually hybrid work, they find the employees to be more productive, but most managers are still, when you're fully remote, are using this tracking software to make sure, your mouse is moving and that you're doing, staying on task. So, they're saying, we really trust you, but we also have a concern that you might be shopping at Target right now.
Well,
we really want you to be in front of your computer.
Trust but verify. Yeah.
Apparently. And employers are saying, just trust me and let's focus more on results than moving my mouse or whatever. There was data which I appreciate that the average hybrid meeting, you lose 6 minutes every time you schedule a meeting. Y'all log in. Hey, Fred, your microphone's not on, or hey, you're muted. Hey, it always takes a little bit of time. So they said, there's lost time in doing these things. And so the experts are saying, really, with these new demands on employees and the increased want for flexibility in this micro shifting lifestyle, really, you got to start managing results and not just, clocking in and clocking out, and set clear expectations about when people are expected to be logged on versus not.
Well, there's no doubt people need to have flexibility for time for their kids and their doctors and their Facebook and Instagram.
I want to know, where's the weirdest place you've ever done a Zoom call? 573-874-9390.
We'll ask Jeffrey Toobin that when we come back.
I think just local news is the most important stuff to me, even though it's kind of bad stuff going on around me, but it's the most relevant to me.
Where I come from, there's an old plowboy out turning up dirt. Where I come from, there's a preacher man in a cowboy shirt. Where I come from, where a couple boys fight in the parking lot. No, nobody's gonna call the cops. Where I come from. See that door right there? Man, I swear that it ain't never been locked, and I guarantee that it never will. That old man right there in the rocking chair at the courthouse square.
I don't know. I don't think I have a favorite news subject to talk about. I think anything that
creates good discussion. Anything that you can talk about with other people, that you can exchange ideas without getting angry at each other, and you can share
8:36. Thanks for being with us here as we continue to see if Tom Homan is going to, along with Mayor Fry and Tim Walz, begin to have some reason to their messaging that has been a little mixed. Well, it's been a lot mixed, I think, on both sides. And if people will behave themselves, behave, up in Minneapolis.
You know what's sad, Randy? It's that I have a Austin Powers clip that are like little audio bite. I've just never had the chance to use it.
That was your chance.
No, it's not. It's about it. Here, let me play it for you.
All you sophomore guys out there, listen up. Here's
That ain't no woman. It's a man.
It's supposed to make fun of trans, but, I've never had the chance.
So, Stephanie, there's been a little back and forth on the social media between David Wassinger and Senator Rick Bratton.
That's right. Apparently, we're sending Tom Homan to Minnesota, apparently, to try to lower the temperature. The temperature is not getting any lower in the Missouri Senate, apparently. Randy, we talked to President Pro Tem Cindy O'Loughlin earlier this week about the Democrats holding up the floor with respect to appointments, that nothing's really getting done. Not like a lot of things get done this early, John. Usually, anyway, there's a lot of committee hearings, and what we know is today they canceled several committee hearings, I think, due to weather, and they're going in late. Normally, they would have gone in, I think, yesterday. So, but I guess yesterday, which is interesting because Wassinger is quoting or is citing the Missouri Independent. You don't see that a lot by Republicans, but posts a Missouri Independent article saying gridlock, scandal, dysfunction, 3 weeks into the session, and the results speak for themselves. The term Jefferson City swamp wasn't invented, it was earned. And so he's calling Jefferson City the swamp, and Senator Rick Bratton, also a Republican, fires back. My suggestion is to concentrate on your job of running the Senate floor without needing a coach or a potato head floor manual before you start critiquing the rules and calling everyone the swamp.
Maybe both are right.
We talked about name calling earlier. It's like, don't call me the swamp.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be precise, David Wassinger on his post said Jefferson City swamp wasn't invented. So he's talking about in total, right? Just in the, if you look at the 30,000-foot view. But
that was a big campaign talking point for him every time we had him on when he ran for governor. Was I'm going to Jeff City to drain the swamp.
Well, I think anyone who
But the swamp is the super majority of people in his own party, right?
Pretty much.
True.
I don't know. This, and of course, he, as the lieutenant governor, he presides over the Senate. Senator Bratton obviously is a member of the Senate. I'm just saying, we've been talking about what this session is going to look like, and this is not lowering the temperature, I don't think.
It's one thing to be filibustering governor's appointments. It's another thing to prevent bill referrals to occur. And Senator O'Loughlin mentioned that. I was only aware of the Democrats filibustering on the appointments. So I don't know. I think when people mean swamp, whether it's David Wassinger or people, the regular people, it's sort of like there's common sense things, right? That just why is there any doubt about this, right? Why do you have to why do you have to do certain things? As a businesswoman, why are there certain things that you have to do that are silly, right? That either should be more streamlined. Although I think what's true is relative to most states, for instance, the worst of the worst, California, and all those in between, all told, Missouri's, in order to deal with regulatory agencies and the bureaucrats in them and it's not that bad. Not that bad compared to what it could be in other places. But it's never good enough. It's always some obstruction from the state.
That's fair. Did you see the article in the Journal? You were talking about government and things that are unnecessary. You know how California is going to tax billionaires? Mm-hmm. Did you see the article in the Journal that said the hardest part about being a billionaire in California is proving you left?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Advisors recommend leaving breadcrumbs like a "we've moved" note on your Christmas card. And you do have to quit your country club, apparently, to prove that you've officially left, so you're not subject to the tax.
I've read that people that want to leave the United States and become expatriates, they don't, because there's a big tax when you leave the U.S. I mean, I don't know all of the intricacies of it, but apparently you have to pay some kind of a tax when you exit the states.
Good luck finding me.
Yeah.
I'm going to win that Mega Millions, and I'll see you later.
How many of those people, though, have regret when they become expats and, it always looks greener on the other side of the fence. And then they live in these other countries for a while, and I don't think so.
It's cold in Canada.
I'm not going to Canada. That's for sure off the list. I'm not going to the moon either.
No?
I don't know. If I won the lottery, I'd move to like Nicaragua or some like really poor country so I could just basically rule it. Yeah.
There are a lot of
Beavis and Butthead reference, right?
There are a lot of countries that you could get there. I did get a helpful text from Evan about the moon thing.
You did.
He said, Stephanie, you can't fall into a black hole. There aren't even any remotely close enough to reach. So this is really helpful.
Well, scientists have used data from the James Webb Space Telescope, and they can define dark matter now. Clearest. What does a map of dark matter look like? I don't know. Is that a view into like someone's Discord account? I don't know.
Could be. Yeah.
255 hours scanning a region of the constellation Sextans, Sextans.
He's scanning it for that.
Matter. Just scan Lawrence, Kansas. You want to see dark matter.
That's the dark matter.
Chris is giving me the giggles on the text line because we were talking about the new trend, micro shifting, and how employees have killed the 9-to-5 work day. And hey, Randy, who works 9 to 5?
What?
This is.
I don't know. Is it like a knock knock? I don't know.
Dolly Parton.
Oh, I was going to say that.
Good.
That's very good. All right.
Oh, man.
Angela says she loves hybrid work. She did it successfully for quite some time. I think that's Angela. Yeah.
Some people are very good at that. My daughter Shannon's very good at that. And daughter Sammy too. They're able to do that and be very effective to interrupt their, domestic duties at home with the kids, little baby, 1-year-old, 3-year-old, 5. And they're able to do that and interrupt their job and get back to it.
Angela says she takes her dog out and it allows her brain to process ideas. She says, if you don't trust me, don't hire me. She said, I guarantee people are warming a chair in an office and not actively working. Facts, Angela. That is such a good point. And I think that's right. Like sometimes when I'm way, way, way down in the weeds, I need to take like 20 minutes and do something else. Maybe get up and move, do some jumping jacks. Randy, what were you suggesting? Push-ups or something?
Jumping jacks.
And then you come back to something and like the problem you were really struggling with or the sentence that just wouldn't write, suddenly like you have a moment of clarity.
Climb a flight of stairs or climb a stairs. Either way. Do you notice though, on days when you don't exercise, is your mind clearer or duller? More dull than on those days when you do. I think unequivocally you're better when you exercise. Yeah.
I think that's right.
Gets the good circulation going.
I was at the Southern Boone Y this morning at 5.
You were?
Yeah.
Wow.
Got into some extra steps.
Oh,
Gonna have a busy day.
I can't do the morning exercise.
Oh man, I wasn't the only one.
Really?
There are a lot of
fighting for the machines still.
Oh man, it's packed.
That's usually done by the second week of January.
I'm waiting for February to start.
If I had to guess, I think there probably were a lot of people like me who were trapped in their house all weekend with kiddos and were like, I got to get out of here. The roads are looking okay. I'm getting some movement in.
I don't know. I just think that I don't care when you do it, and I don't care if you do it all at once, but just move somehow, even if that means walking around at lunch, taking a little break. Of course, does the boss notice that if you're walking around taking a little walk break, or do they recognize that as stimulating your circulation and therefore you'll be more creative, productive, and successful?
I mean, pros to being the boss, right? There are perks.
Yeah.
Does the boss notice if I'm walking around? Yes, I notice, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, good boss might even join in with the crew and take the walk around.
Yeah, but does the crew really want the boss walking around with him?
Probably not.
How else are they going to be talking about that? Then they have to zip it. Can't talk about the boss if the boss is walking around with the crew.
Yeah, I mean, if I see you like walking with a coworker and talking about something, I'd much rather see that than what Angela was saying about being a seat warmer. I walk in and you're like on your phone.
Yeah, but how do I know you're not talking about the latest Taylor Swift ticket you bought?
That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you're off the clock. I'm not one who I don't like clockwork. I've never understood why we do things hourly. Why don't we do
'Cause
things on job definition wise? Here's the output expected. Whether you do it in an hour or 3 hours, I don't care. I mean, I'm paying for output, not for time on the clock. No.
I think for some
From
professions,
someone who bills by the hour.
Yeah,
I'm ready
I think
for this
some professions, like paint this room is different than like solve this like life altering problem for me, or like navigate this regulatory framework that there are going to be 17 roadblocks, and I might be able to solve it with a phone call, or we might go to court and we might litigate for a year. I mean, like it's hard to put fix my problem when you're not even sure what the problem necessarily is. And I don't know.
That's true.
It makes, I think, and honestly, I mean, you talk about healthcare, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
my doc charges by the hour. And I like that a lot.
I don't.
Well, that's fine.
I charge by the membership. So in my model, I'm incentivized to be efficient with my care of the patient, right? Because there's a fixed amount coming in every month from the patient. And so I need to serve the patient well, and rather than fragment the visits to generate a bill every time so I can get a copay and get a little morsel from the insurance. And by the same token, the patient is rewarded by showing trust in that, by basically keeping me on retainer. And if you want to talk in purely economic terms, when you have a retainer model, you quote financially the provider of the retainer service. You, quote, win with some and you, quote, lose with others because you devote a lot of time to a few and not much time to others. But maybe next year you vote a lot of time to the person you didn't this year. You see, and it reverses and goes and see, so it all works out.
I just
now you talk about retail and all those and industry and all that work off a time clock just because, a lot of shift workers and things like that where it kind of behooves them to work that way.
Yeah, but think about it. If you're on the clock at a retail place, wouldn't you want to be judged by how much you sold? Like
typically you are. When I worked at Dillard's, we had like a quota.
Yeah.
And our pay was based on us meeting the quota.
Is that why I've been sold so many ties I'd never wear again? Because
100%.
A good salesman sold me that tie.
Yeah, most salespeople work on a commission.
No, I know that. I know that.
Every time I go into the car place, they're like, "Don't you want one of these brand new ones that's on the inside?" I'm like, "No, I want that beater old used one out there." And they're like, "You could have one of these." I said, "I know I could, but I'm not going to do that."
But true or false, when you're on the clock, especially if you're on your own billing, and you're not observing, isn't there a potential for exposure to where people would accuse you of not billing fairly and accurately?
Well, that's why they get a detailed bill of every detail that I did, and they can take time to review it.
There you go.
Usually they...
Do you bill for the time it takes you to generate the bill?
No. Not admin tasks. Lawyer work.
All right, now a little bit of behind the curtain into the practice. All right, when we come back, we'll wrap it up with leftovers.
It's Wake Up
President Trump does not want any Americans to lose their lives in the streets of America and in American communities across the country. He believes what happened on Saturday is a tragedy, but every life is equal to President Trump, and that's why the lives of Laken Riley and Jocelyn Nungray continue to matter to him and be an utmost priority to him to this very day. And it's unfortunate that we did not see the same type of sensationalist media coverage over the tragic deaths of those innocent American women and girls across the country as we are in the wake of this tragedy that took place on Saturday.
Well, Caroline Leavitt, in the wake of Donald Trump having a call with Mayor Fry and Governor Walz, and apparently some conversations that might lead to a change in the temperature up in Minneapolis, saying it like it is. All lives matter to President Trump. We'll see what unfolds, and Tom Homan on his way to Minneapolis will no doubt be bringing you some sound and some analysis on that tomorrow on Wake Up Missouri. John, what do you have on your leftover plate?
Turns out the scammers love this winter weather. Now the Attorney General says, look out. She says price gougers like to charge a lot more for things like snow blowers, generators, and even snow shovels. And her office saying utility scams also making the rounds, where a fake crew will show up at your house and ask you to pay up front for work they're not even doing.
Interesting question for Stephanie Bell. Comes to my mind. So John just made a statement that, you got to watch out for price, quote, gougers. Republicans have often come out and said, there'll be no price gouging. Oh, these people, why are they charging $50 for a snow shovel? Now, I would, based on some of the things that we've talked about this morning, I would say that's okay with you, right? Because as a sentient adult, you should have known to buy some snow shovels last summer and be prepared. And if you're going to pay more for a shovel, that's on you because you're a thinking adult. Yep.
I'm not so sure temporal shifts in supply and demand, price changing qualifies under the definition of price
gouging. So you want government market manipulation? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I'm saying that is free market economics, but no.
So you're defending it. I would defend it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let the gouging go on.
I was telling you, so the ice situation is really bad in Nashville, and my sister, Thursday decided to get on the old Amazon and be like, maybe I should get a snow shovel. And the only thing that was available was kids' sand toys at the time that could get to her in time. And, that's on her. But if she wants to, she can use a sand shovel, and it's going to take a minute.
Now, if we take that to its logical conclusion, though, I guess you could argue that with private energy companies and so forth, if they started price gouging and people couldn't afford, to heat their house and death would ensue, maybe that's why those are more public utilities, right?
I think Missouri law says, going back to some of the big disasters, during a declared emergency, places can't unduly jack up the price of gasoline or heating fuel and all that kind of stuff.
No, I think there's a limit to everything, right? And that's why we have antitrust rules, so that if one company owns the market entirely, right, that people could be shut out of life-sustaining and necessary items.
Yeah. At what level does your price increases mean price gouging? I don't know the technical definition. At some level, you're probably crossing the line.
We'll continue to ask and answer the big questions on tomorrow's Wake Up Missouri. Stay tuned for Gary coming up.
Bye.